So, still having troubles with Elden Rings? Look, if you know how to play Soul Calibur, and I'm not talking about button mashing, then you know how to play Elden Rings. Okay? Yeah. Soul Calibur 1 through 6 will teach you how to play Elden Rings. Okay? Yeah. Because they got all kind of different fighters. And it's dealing with combat, freedom, the eight ways of movement, freedom of movement. You know, some fighters are up in your face. Some fighters are up in your face. Some fighters are mid range, and some fighters are long range. So, Soul Calibur will teach you how to play Elden Rings. When it comes to fighting the bosses, you know, you want to search out the map first before you even enter the boss's presence. You know, or you could go on a test run just to see what he comes with. You know, does he have 2 or 3 attacks before you can do something? You know, does he have helpers with him when he's losing? Yeah, all that. So, Elden Rings is not a hard game. It's just you, the player, got to adjust your make some adjustment to your play style, and always constantly thinking. You know, yeah. I mean, you know, can you dodge his attacks? Can you slide under? Can you roll under his attacks? You know, can you get around his attacks? You know, how much range does his attacks cover? All that plays a factor into Elden Rings. So yeah, you can beat it. Yeah, you just gotta change your play style. You know, and don't be button mashing, and think strategically when you fight a boss in Elden Rings. That's all you gotta do. So, Soul Calibur will teach you how to beat those bosses in Elden Rings. Yeah. But the thing is, you want to level up your character, you know, and find out what weapons works against it, what does the most damage. Yeah, all that. And you know, how much range does the boss's attack covers, you know? You know, does it break your guard? You know, can you run away from it? All that. So yeah. But the game is not. I mean, the game challenges you, you know, to see what kind of gamer you are. You know, so yeah. And I think most people that were complaining, they just want stuff easy all the time. You know. And I'm hearing stories of people dying 500 times or whatever the case may be because they got to the last boss. You know, but you gotta change your play style when it comes to Elden Rings. You really do. Yeah. You know, keep an open mind and always have your minds in rotation. You know. Yeah. Study the boss's movements. You know. Figure, you know, how many different style of attacks does he come with, you know, and is he calling out helpers to help him, you know, yeah, and then if he call out helpers, then you gotta take the helpers out before you can get to him, you know, or yeah, or you can try to get to him, but the helper might be in the way, so yeah, so that's what you do. But other than that, man, this game sold 5 million copies. Hello, people. Another beautiful day. Yeah. Hope your 5 senses work. Health and strength is good or excellent. What? Yeah. 5 million copies. Elden Rings, man. So, yeah. Just think. I mean, just think of all the fighting games. All the fighting games that you've ever played. All the, you know, all the weapons fighting games that you ever played, and think of all the bosses that you face. Okay, what's the separation between the bosses in Elden Rings and the bosses in the fighting games you play, and what kind of weapons were the bosses in the fighting games that you were using versus the bosses in Elden Rings? And then Once you put that all together, then you realize you can beat it. So yeah. And then take it from there. And even if you and anyway, let me keep going here. 5 million copies. Listen to this. Elden Ring Shadows of the Erdtree expansion sold 5 million copies. It says here, From Software soul-like experience are no strangers to being absolutely massive hits, and now even the studio expansion are joining in on the tradition. Today, Bandai Namco announced that the Elden Ring Shadows of the Erdtree expansion alone has sold over 5 million copies, and the impressive milestone has been reached within only 3 days. The Shadows of the Erdtree expansion was released on June 21st, meaning the actual sold number could be bigger. How it was 3 days from launch. The milestone is the result of the tremendous support from the fans all over the world, to whom we express heartfelt gratitude, says Bandai Namco in its announcement, and say coming in the massive new realm of Shadows environment, fresh enemies and bosses to struggle with, as well as weapons including hand-to-hand style, spells, armor. Expansion is touting a huge amount of content for Miyazaki fans to dive into. Then it says here, here's how the studio described the settings. The realm of shadows has been kept apart from the land between since its creation. Now in pursuit of Meliquilla, the tarnish among the first souls to set here in the unknown ages. Traverse new worlds, fields, eagers to reach dense new legacy dungeons full of hazards and undiscovered mysteries. And it says the expansion also the expansion has also taken the top spot on Metacritic as the most highly rated post-launch content ever for a game by critics. However, not all players agree with the verdict, with the expansion Steam store page still shows a mostly positive user review score, while up from mixed scores it had at launch. Players are mostly complaining about the massive difficulty spike the expansion mob and bosses show up with compared to the base game. Some performance issue also exists. Then it says From Software released its first update for the Elden Ring expansion only yesterday, June 26, to remedy some of these issues. The calibration update adjusts the balance of the early encounters by boosting players' attacks and damage negation levels when they find the new Shadow Realm Blessing item. However, the later stages of the game will still pose a major threat to players, just as before. And that is that. So we got 4 comments. Let's see what these commenters are talking about here. See what we got on the 4 comments. See what we got on the comments. Okay, what do we got? 4 comments. Where are you? Oh, here we go. 4 comments. Fingal Amin said this. Proof that making a good game does far more for your sales than implementing draconian DRMs that does little more than punish your customer. And then Cyber Hash said this. The base game is far better with a lot more to do. Plus there is issues with the difficulty with certain enemies even after the first patch. And then Mr. Sinister said this. From Software literally has no bad games. Their quality is top notch. I am really enjoying discovering everything new again in Shadows of the Erdtree. From Software absolutely deserve all the praise the DLC is getting. And that is that. So yeah, You have to adjust your play style when it comes to Shadows of the Erdtree. You have to figure out, okay, like how much, some people be complaining because, like when it comes to games like this, because they don't like a challenge. They want everything to be easy, and other players, including myself and others, we're like, okay, bring it. We want to see what you're made of. And we don't players like me, we don't mind losing to the boss. We don't mind. We're studying him to figure out, like, okay, and we're studying him to see and try to build a chain of command, so the next time we see it, we know what to do. So we don't want players like myself. We don't mind a challenge. We like it. We're not gonna be sitting there complaining all the time. We study the bosses and his attacks and his movements, and see, like, okay, how many different style of attacks does he come with? How many different style of movements does he have? What range do they cover? We study all that, and then we're like, okay, can we get around this? Can we get around that? How many combination does the boss come with? And we're like, okay, we're trying to figure out all that. And once we figure it out, we're like, okay, we got you. You are done. You are finished. We're coming for you. That's how we approach it. So we're not going to sit there to be complaining just to be complaining, man. We try to figure it out. I remember playing Final Fantasy 12, and I think it was up in the Himi mines. Up in the Himi mines, I think. There was a rock boss. The boss was like a mountain. He was just sitting there asleep like a mountain because of the way the boss was. And then I got up in there, and I'm like, I got up on the boss, and I'm looking, and I'm sitting there battling him, and he was beating me for a good minute, and I'm sitting there studying him, like, how do I beat him? And then I'm looking at him, and watching his movements. He was beating the crap out of me, boy, but I'm still trying to figure out, okay, how do I beat him? And once I figured it out, I had to heal. I had to use one of the characters as a healer, while the other two was fighting him. I had to use one of my characters as a healer to heal the group, and then so they can so the other two can take on that boss, man, and it worked. But this time, the next boss that I faced, there were some bosses after that I faced. The Tyrant boss on Final Fantasy 12. When I got to him, there was like this green platform that was going like this, boom, 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 right? Then you had the ring. So I got to the ring, and the Tyrant boss, he jumped off he was behind me, like up on a wall somewhere. Then he jumped off and then jumped on the platform and started running down the platform. Right, got to the ring, and we sitting here battling him. I battled him plenty of times. Couldn't figure it out. I'm like battling him, right? So I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay, what do I got to do to beat this boss, man? Because he's really getting to me. And I'm looking at the pattern, like, okay, which boss that I've beaten before that would work against him? And it was the boss that I described before, the one that was like a mountain. But like a mountain, he was sleeping like a mountain. But when he transformed, it was a different animal. So when I used one of my characters to heal the other two to take him on, that's how I beat him, right? But with the Tyrant boss now, the same rule applies. So I'm like, okay, I gotta use one of my characters as a healer, but this time now, I gotta use the summons. I gotta put the summons in front of me, and let the summons do a majority of the fighting, right? But then on top of that, now I had to get some of those stones for the summons and keep the summons alive, so he can battle the Tyrant boss, man. And it worked. So when it comes to Elden Rings, man, that's how you gotta approach it. You gotta figure out different strategies and different like hints and clues, like, okay, how do I get around this, like how do I beat this person? And when you're battling him, it's not that you, it's like, you know, you're trying to like get through the game. That might be part of it, but you're really studying his patterns and his movements, man. And once you figure it out, man, and like you'll get it. So and that's the and that's the fun and that's the fun part of the, when you fighting bosses in Elden Rings like that, is when you're figuring out, you know, like what works, what don't work, you know, and you know what takes the most damage and what don't, and what stuff I gotta have in preparation when you fight that particular boss, man. You know, so that's how you got to approach it when it comes to a game like that. So yeah, and you feel better. You feel better when you when you beat the game with no with no cheats or no hacks. You know, you feel better, that you feel accomplished. You know, because the challenge was really worth it. That boss gave you a run for your money. Look, I could go back to what was that, Mega Man? Well, I think it was Mega Man X, when I first ran into Sigma. That battle was something else, man. Yeah. So when you get a challenge from a boss in a game, in a game like Elden Rings or whatever Souls game you play, man, it's worth it, man. It's because all you're doing is you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I defeat this person, you know? And the developers, they wouldn't put a character in the game if they know you couldn't beat it. They wouldn't do it. They know you can beat it. It's just you got to make some adjustments, you know. So, and try to figure out, okay, how do I get past this? And then once you figure it out, man, it'll be worth it. So yeah. But the players, gamers like myself, like, okay, we got you. We gonna figure you out. So yeah, that's how we approach it, man. Like, look, okay, back to Final Fantasy 12. Like when I was playing it, a lot of stuff I had to figure out on my own. You know, I had to go on raid missions. I had to use one of the Yamanesa oil field. I had to use that as one of my raid spots to level up my character. And then when I ran into that big energy ball, I didn't fight it head up because I wasn't at the place where I needed to be to take it on yet. I just ran away from it. I say, I'll come back to you next go around. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, and it worked, man. So it's all about, when it comes to games like this, man, it's all about using your thinking ability to figure stuff out, man. But once you figure it out, man, the reward is like, it's worth it. So yeah, Elden Rings, you can beat it. But it all comes down to you. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Nice talking to you people again. Chris, still Star Wars, Star Trek 9, or Dark Side. Go. Peace.